Have you ever felt tired of always chasing something? I have a patient, Bruno, a man in his 50s. He used to be the kind of person who always had a goal. Morning runs, strict diets, constantly feeling like he had to be better. But then, during what was supposed to be just a short vacation, Bruno stopped. He stopped counting steps, stopped timing his meals. And not because he was sick or burned out. He stopped because he felt the need to be present. I want you to picture this a quiet morning. No alarm clock. You're sitting in a chair with a warm cup of coffee in your hands. There's no rush, no appointments, nowhere you have to be. And in that stillness, with every sip, every small movement, as you rise from your seat, you begin to notice your body speaking to you, not through aches or pain, but through presence. Bruno told me he no longer rushes into the kitchen like he used to. Now he walks slowly, feeling each step. Not because he gave up, but because he realized at this stage of life, he doesn't need to race against the man he was 30 years ago. He began living with more intention, eating only when he was truly hungry, resting when he needed to, not just because the schedule said so. And I once told Bruno something I want you to hear too. Living slowly doesn't mean you're falling behind. Sometimes it's the only way to actually touch life. So I want to ask you, how long has it been since you did absolutely nothing, just to be fully yourself? I remember once Bruno said to me, "Doc, I used to move so fast I never even noticed what I was passing by." I stayed quiet for a moment when he said that. Then I asked, "So now that you've slowed down, what do you see?" He smiled, that kind of smile you give when you realize something important for the very first time. He said, "Now, I see myself, and that is what I hope so many of my patients can one day feel." Because when we stop trying to squeeze ourselves into someone else's mold, whether it's the media's, society's, or even who we used to be, we finally make space to listen to our own bodies and to our own hearts. I've met many people in their 60s who still feel like they need to achieve something or get back to the way they used to be, as if their current body is somehow a mistake. But the truth is, there's nothing wrong. We weren't made to stay the same forever. We change. And if we slow down long enough to notice that change, we might actually see that there's a unique kind of beauty in it. Have you ever just sat down, done nothing at all, and felt completely okay with just being you in that one quiet moment? Not everyone is ready for that. Because slowing down, it takes courage. It asks us to face ourselves. No noise, no to-do lists, just you. But I believe this. At this age, at a time in life when we really don't have anything left to prove, slowing down isn't a compromise. It's a gift, a reward we've earned. I still remember it clearly. One afternoon, after a routine checkup, Bruno stayed behind in my office a little longer than usual. At first, he didn't say anything. He just sat there, hand resting gently on his belly, the same belly he once tried to flatten at all costs. And then, almost in a whisper, he said, "Doc, I know I've gained weight, but for the first time in my life, I don't hate my body anymore. You know, in nearly 40 years of practice, I've heard hundreds of people tell me they want to lose weight, feel younger, get their old body back. But it's rare, so rare that someone says, I've started accepting myself. Or even more, I've started loving my body even if it doesn't look the way it used to." Bruno wasn't pretending nothing had changed. His old clothes didn't fit. He moved more slowly. Sometimes he had to pause halfway up the stairs to catch his breath, but he no longer felt ashamed of it. Instead, he started caring about how he sat, what made him feel comfortable. He began choosing foods that made him feel full, not bloated. He started enjoying his meals, not rushing through them. And then he said something that's stayed with me ever since: "I don't want to be smaller anymore, Doc. I just want to feel enough." Have you ever felt that way? Not needing to shrink or slim down or squeeze into someone else's version of acceptable, but to feel whole, present, and enough just as you are. This isn't an excuse to give up on health, no, not at all. This is awareness. It's when you start listening to your body, not with the goal to fix it, but simply to understand it, to know when to rest, when to eat, and sometimes when to just breathe. Because at some point in life, whether that's 50, 60, or beyond, the real question isn't, how do I get back to the way I was? It becomes, how do I live the best life I can in the body I have today? I know that for many of you watching this, the idea of slowing down might feel distant. Life keeps moving, family to care for, chores that never end, and the constant worries about health, high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol. It all pushes you forward, doesn't it? Like there's no time, no room to stop. But I want you to imagine something with me. A quiet autumn afternoon. You're sitting in an old chair, a warm cup of tea in your hands, golden light spilling softly through the window. No phones ringing, no ticking clock, just the sound of your own breath. Slow, steady, present. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to accomplish a thing. And here's the beautiful part. It's in those very moments that your body begins to heal. Not because of medication, not because of some strict diet, but because you finally slowed down enough to hear it. Science has a name for this, the recovery state. It's when your parasympathetic nervous system takes over, your heart rate slows, your blood pressure eases, your digestion improves. And the amazing thing is, you don't need any fancy equipment to get there. You just need you. I had another patient, Marie, 68 years old. She came to see me for trouble sleeping, irregular meals, forgetfulness. And after her exam, I didn't give her more medication. I just asked, have you ever taken 10 minutes a day just to breathe? She laughed and said, Doctor, I can't even remember the last time I took a deep breath. A month later, she returned. Still Marie, but something in her had changed. Her face was brighter, her voice calmer. She said, I started sitting on my porch every morning just to listen to the birds, doctor. And guess what? She started sleeping again, eating better. Not because of a prescription, but because she started showing up in her own life. I'm not sharing this to make you feel like you need to get everything right starting today. I'm sharing it because I want you to know every slow step, every quiet moment, every time you choose not to rush, it's a way of taking care of yourself. Maybe you've spent a lifetime searching for peace, chasing wellness. But sometimes that peace begins with a single simple question. Today, did I truly listen to my body? Bruno wasn't an exception. He was living proof of something I've seen again and again, not just in my clinic, but out there in life. When people stop forcing themselves to go back to how they used to be, that's when they finally begin to live fully in the present. You know, sometimes what wears us down isn't our age. It's the old expectations we're still holding on to, that we're supposed to look the way we did at 40, or weigh what we did at 30. That the waistline we had back then was the right one, the only beautiful one. But here's a softer truth, one I hope you'll give yourself permission to believe. You don't need to be your old self to live fully today. I once asked Bruno when he reached a weight he used to consider his limit. I asked, do you feel weaker now? He looked at me, laughed gently, and shook his head. No, Doc, he said. I feel present. For the first time in my life, I'm not trying to fix myself. I'm just living with myself. And I want you to hear that clearly. Not trying to fix myself, just living with myself. That's a message for anyone who's ever stood in front of a mirror and sighed. For anyone who's paused halfway up the stairs, embarrassed by how out of breath they were. For anyone who's ever rested their hand on their belly and thought, I've let things go too far. No, you haven't gone too far. You're not off track. You're just in a different chapter of your life. And maybe, just maybe, this chapter is a slower one. Maybe you sit down more. Maybe your old clothes don't fit the way they used to. But also, maybe just maybe, this is the chapter where you finally live the most honestly, the most freely, because you're no longer trying to shrink yourself or perfect yourself. You're simply wanting one thing: to be yourself fully, wholly, and truly here. And if you're in that chapter right now, then welcome. I believe from that place you'll start to see the world with new eyes. No judgment, no rush, just a quiet peace like late afternoon sunlight resting on the front porch. You deserve that. And it is never too late to begin living that way. I know someone watching this right now might be thinking, but if I keep slowing down, if I let my body be the way it is, am I just giving up? That's a real question, one I've heard many times before. But let me tell you something. There's a big difference between giving up and letting go. Giving up is when you stop caring about yourself. Letting go is when you stop forcing yourself to be something that no longer fits the season of life you're in. Bruno didn't give up on his health. He simply changed his relationship with his body. He didn't push himself to run or diet like he did in his 30s. Instead, he started eating when he was truly hungry, resting when he was tired, and wearing clothes that fit the 60-year-old man he is now, not the image of youth that had already passed. I once said something to a group of older patients at a wellness session, and I want to say it to you too. Your body isn't betraying you. It's simply speaking a different language, a softer, slower one, and it's asking you to listen with patience and kindness. I know you've tried. You've tried to stay young, tried to get smaller, tried to keep up with expectations from society, from loved ones, even from your younger self. But today, I just want to ask you one thing. What if you stopped trying and started simply living with yourself the way Bruno did? What if your body wasn't a project to fix, but a companion growing older with you, reminding you that every day you get to live, to sit, to breathe, to enjoy a full meal is a privilege? You don't have to look like anyone else. You don't need to race. You don't need to turn back time. You just need to be present in your life the way you are right now, listening to these words, feeling something stir quietly in your heart. And if the only thing you do today is this, let it be this: let go. And begin to love yourself just as you are. I believe from that place, a new life begins. No noise, no trophies, just truth. And enough. I've seen some strange, tender moments in my clinic over the years, moments when someone sits down and I expect them to talk about weight or aging, but instead they start to cry. Why? Because someone finally told them, you're okay. You don't need to be fixed. You see, as we get older, changes come. Sometimes gently, sometimes harshly. Muscles soften. Our vision, our memory, our heartbeat, they all begin to slow down. But the beauty of this season in life isn't found in fighting aging. It's found in waking up to the truth that we don't need to keep running. We don't need to reverse time. We just need to finally touch what's real in our lives. I'll never forget the moment Bruno looked at himself in the mirror and said, I used to think being thin meant being healthy. But now I know being healthy is when I stop being afraid of my own body. And I wanted to hug him right then, because that moment wasn't just a turning point for his physical health, it was a breakthrough for his spirit. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you to ignore your health or give up on yourself. I'm a doctor. I understand the value of movement, balanced eating, regular checkups. But I also know this. There's something more important than the number on the scale. More important than the test results. It's how you see yourself. Do you treat your body like an enemy or like an old friend? Do you listen to it or constantly try to change it? Do you live with it or spend every day trying to overcome it? I can't live your life for you. But I can remind you of this. Your age doesn't take away your worth. Your weight doesn't take away your dignity. And if you pause, even just for a moment, you might begin to see something clearly. You are still you, and you are still needed, still loved, still worthy just as you are. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. And if today marks the start of something new for you, a slower, more honest life, then let me say this. That's not a step backward. It's a step toward yourself. And if today you needed to hear this, let me say it one more time. You are still beautiful. You are still enough. And you still have time to live gently with yourself. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. If you're starting a new journey, a journey of slowing down, of living more truthfully, then let me say congratulations, because that's not a step backward. It's a step toward yourself. And if today you needed to hear this, then let me say it one last time. You are still beautiful. You are still enough. And you still have time to live gently with yourself. I'm Dr. Robert, and I'll always be here if you ever need someone to remind you of that. Until next time, may your days be peaceful, and may you be kind to yourself. You know, life after 50 through 60, even 70. It's not the ending. It's a whole new chapter. And if there's one lesson worth learning again at this stage of life, it's this: learning how to be gentle with yourself. We've spent so many years trying to be a good father, a devoted mother, a successful son or daughter, a hardworking person others could rely on. But at some point, you have the right to stop and ask, what about me? Not the roles, not the expectations, but me. What do I truly feel right here, right now? I once had a patient, Evelyn, 72 years old. She'd been living alone since her husband passed, always dressed neatly, soft makeup, kind smile to everyone she met. But one day she looked at me and said, "Doctor, I'm tired of always having to be okay. I just want to be myself, even if I'm quiet, even if I'm older, even if I'm imperfect." I held her hand and said, "Evelyn, being yourself, that's the most beautiful thing you've ever done for you. And today, I want to say the same to you. If you've gained a few pounds, if your steps are slower, if you pause halfway up the stairs, if your reflection no longer shows the abs you once had, so what? You're still you, and you are still deeply worthy of love, especially the kind that comes from yourself. Don't wait for a prescription. Don't wait for your body to ache before you begin to listen to it. Start now by slowing down, by enjoying a meal without rushing by, walking just far enough to feel your own steps, by sitting quietly, placing your hand over your heart and whispering, "I'm here. I'm still me. And I no longer need to prove anything." If today you feel heavier, slower, different from who you used to be, please remember you're not going downhill. Maybe you're just landing more deeply on the ground beneath you, where you can stand steadier, live more honestly, and love yourself without conditions. I'll always be here, not to tell you who to become, but to remind you of who you already are, a beautiful version of yourself right now, just as you are. I'll see you in the next video. And if today the only thing you did for yourself was take one deep breath, hug yourself, and say, "I'm alive, and I am enough." Maybe you're watching this video alone, in a quiet room, or by the window where the late afternoon light has started to turn golden. And maybe no one else truly knows how far you've come, how many times you've felt exhausted, how many mornings you've woken up and quietly wondered, do I still have enough strength to keep going today? I just want you to know I see you. Not through images, not through numbers, but through the deeper truth I've come to understand from people like you. People who have lived, who have given, who have endured, who have loved and lost, and who now more than anything just want to live in peace as themselves. You don't need a body like the ones in TV commercials. You don't need harsh diets or workouts that leave you drained. What you need is compassion for yourself. And that's something we often forget on this journey toward health. I'm not saying we should ignore our bodies. I'm just asking you to change the question. Instead of asking, how can I force myself to lose weight? Try asking, how can I live in harmony with this body? This body that's carried me through so much. Your body has been with you for decades. It has survived illness, stood strong through hard times, held your children and grandchildren, stood for hours in the kitchen, stayed up late to care for loved ones. It deserves gratitude, not criticism. I won't promise you that every day will be easy, but I believe if you can offer yourself even a small amount of kindness each day, something inside you will begin to heal. Not because of medication, not because of test results, but because finally you stopped not to give up, but to come home to yourself. And if you need a reminder, let this be it. You don't have to become someone else. You just need to become the person you're learning to love. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. You're not alone. You never were. Being yourself, it's not a destination. It's the path itself.